search for accommodation, you need to go to www.accom.ed.ac.uk. This is a separate website to any applications made through the university, so make sure you do this carefully.
They have things like tours, and you can kind of compare the accommodation. It gives you the prices, it gives you to say whether they have a common room, if they have an ensuite, if they're catered or not, and things like that.
On the accommodation website, each accommodation is shown on a map, which even gives you a breakdown in minutes how long the walk is to the nearest supermarket and the main campuses of the university. It is important to remember though that Edinburgh is quite a small city and more places are walkable than you might imagine.
It's worth noting that accommodation doesn't go on a first come first served basis, and so there's no need for you to rush your decisions.
They've only just started allocating accommodation around now, but you'll get the same chance to get one of your 5 preferences if you applied by the deadline. It's not first come first served.
So I stayed in Chancellor's in Pollock Halls, which is the catered accommodation option at Edinburgh. The positives are that I'm a horrible chef. So moving to university, I didn't want cooking to be an extra thing that I had to worry about in my first year when I was already a bit nervous about all the changes that were going to happen and having to move away from home. I just didn't really want to think about cooking. Also, I saw catering as a really sociable option, and getting to eat meals with friends and talk about things over dinner time and breakfast time just felt like quite a nice way to meet people and make friends to me. So that's why I chose catered.
So I picked self-catered because I like to have that option to go to eat when I want, to have breakfast when I want, and you're able to spend your money perhaps more wisely. So I'm able to shop cheap some weeks, shop more expensive when I have more money. I also just like the ability to have a kitchen and cook in it. It's not for everyone. Sometimes if you like structure, if you like to know you'll definitely have meals at a certain time, go catered. But for me, there was no loss in going self-catered. We went less social, if not we were more. So I really enjoy catered and I would recommend it, but it's all about what suits you.
So I think this is one of the most common questions regarding catered accommodation, and I also think it's probably the thing that maybe puts people off a bit. I personally didn't find the time allocation that constraining. I thought they were quite generous because that was kind of the normal time that you would be eating anyway. For breakfast, brunch and dinner, I think it's about a 3-hour slot, and when you think about it, that's quite a long time for how long you really need to eat. Also, the time that it ends, that's the last time you can go into the canteen, as opposed to like that's the last time you have to stop eating. So there's actually an extra bit of leeway either side as well. Also, if you missed occasional meals, if you had a society or you were at the gym or something, it wasn't really a big deal either, because you could order in, you could treat yourself, get some food, or you could make something in your pantry. There's microwaves in there as well, so if you wanted to grab a quick sandwich or actually make something, you could do that as well. But obviously that was only occasionally, and to be honest, in catered accommodation, I don't think that many people found it that constraining.
I was really worried when I came to uni about sharing a bathroom, but I needn't have been. In my flat of 6, we had 2 bathrooms between us, and you sort of learn to adapt to other people's bathroom times. I think I only queued for a shower once in the whole time I was in halls.
I would say you don't need an ensuite. It's up to you and it's up to what you're willing to pay for. I wasn't that bothered about an ensuite. I couldn't afford an ensuite. My life was no worse for not having one. Some people love an ensuite, but you have to pay more money for it. So it's really up to you and what you value. I liked having the money to spend on other things.
For me, I got one of my 5 choices, and I don't know any of my friends or anyone else that didn't get one of their 5 choices.
So your 5 preferences aren't ordered, like number 1 isn't your first choice, number 5 isn't your last choice. Hopefully you'll get one of your 5. But actually I got the one I put first, which was the one I wanted most, and most of my friends got that or their second choice. So it seems quite common that people do tend to get the one that they want, but there's no guarantee of that.
So I can only really speak on behalf of Pollock Halls, which is the catered accommodation. So I think there's 8 buildings within the small village of Pollock Halls. So there's the shared canteen and then 8 different buildings surrounding it, which have hundreds of people in each one. So obviously they've all got their reputation and they change year on year, so it's hard to say which one is lively, which one's not. From my personal experience, I was in Chancellor's Court and I thought that was a very sociable house to be in. I also heard that Holland House is extremely sociable, but I think they all are, to be honest. And yes, some might be slightly rowdier than other ones, but again, it varies so much year on year. I'm sure you can check like online forums and tip pages. I think there's some things on the website as well, which you can check like the reputation that they have. But yeah, I mean, you're going to have a good time no matter where you go, but if you want to request somewhere quieter, that information can be found on the website.
There are some accommodations that are a bit more out the way and a bit away from the hustle and bustle of the city. So yes, those are quieter. I stayed in Robinson's Close, which is on the Cowgate, a street full of clubs, so our night times were not quiet. But that was fine. We were high up enough that it didn't really bother us, and it was quite exciting. You were 2 minutes away from everything that was going on. In terms of the people there, you don't know until you get there. It might be that your accommodation has a lot of people that like to party in it. It may be that it doesn't. But usually when you fill out your form, you can request people that you live with to be the same sort of interests and the same intentions that you do. So if you put that you like going out a lot, you might be matched with other people who also like going out a lot. So there's no sort of disbalance there.
Coming from London, I initially found Edinburgh quite a cheap city to live in because I was used to paying £6 for a pint. However, now that I've lived here a while, I think it's more of a middle-of-the-road city in terms of living expenses. Outside of my rent, the biggest portions of my monthly budget are allocated to society events and socials, but I also like to put aside a little bit of money every month to save for something nice for my flat or for myself.
Well, it's not too bad. I was in self-catered accommodation in first year, and that ranges from about £4,000 to £6,000 for a 38-week lease. And within that is included all of your bills, your Wi-Fi, your personal content insurance, the resident life team, and cleaners that are in most of the common spaces in the accommodations. So that felt quite affordable. I was on the kind of £4,000 mark of that. I then spent about £60 a week, mostly on food, but also on things like social activities or, you know, going out or snacks and coffees and things. I kind of budgeted by using an app called Weekly Budget and dividing my loan by the number of weeks I was at uni. That worked really well for me. And then in second year, my flat was about £550 a month, which did feel more, and I had bills on top of that. But it definitely feels fairly affordable, and you can also work really easily in the city as well.
And on every floor we had an RA live with us, which is a resident assistant. So it's typically another student who's maybe in their 4th year or beyond, and they live alongside you, and it's just someone who is kind of your first point of call if you've got a problem, you know, social problems, medical problems. They were the person to go to, they were the person to ask advice from, and they were really helpful living with us. They have their own space as well, so they're not like involved in your living situation, but they're the person to ask if you've got questions or worries or anything about like logistical things on your floor as well. We also had wardens living in our building, so these are someone slightly older who, if you had a more serious problem, you could go to them with. But yeah, it was really nice to have that person there as some extra support.
The university has an official new students webpage on Facebook, which you can join. I found that my accommodation has set up its own different webpage on Facebook, where I joined and got in touch with some of my flatmates. But there's no need to worry if you don't find them, because you'll definitely get to know them once you get there.
So before I came to university, I met people in my flat in a Facebook group. We just put what flat we were in, and then people commented saying, oh, I'm in that one too. So I was lucky enough to meet, I think, all my flatmates before I moved in. After I moved in, the best thing to do is just talking to people. We went and knocked on doors and everyone in our sort of block of flats and just invited them round. So it was nice to get to know people. After that, societies, you have your societies fair, usually Wednesday and Thursday welcome week. Go there, meet some people, see what your interests are, and then go to events and meet people, and that's one of the best things that I did to expand my social circle.
There are a range of different options for how you can pay for your accommodation at Edinburgh once you've accepted your offer, including paying in full upfront or paying in semesterly or monthly instalments, which is what I chose to do because it made the outgoing cost more manageable.